Hey y'all, welcome to Holy Homestead in the Making. I'm going to do something with my sourdough to make sandwich bread and sub bread. So I thought I'd bring you guys along and just see how it goes and see what we get to. Really, honestly, that's the big kicker, because sometimes, you know, things take longer than you expect. And I'm making a new recipe I've never made before. So I am using, I think it's Farmhouse on Boone. I do a lot of her. Yeah, it's Farmhouse on Boone. It's sourdough discard sandwich bread. And I wonder how much this yields. We got church tonight, so I'm doing this so we can have subs for dinner, because that sounded great. And I'm also doing the sweetbread so that I can make a dessert for tonight, because, you know, we all kind of chip in on our Friday night fellowship. We have dinner afterwards. So I'm thinking this makes like one loaf, and I'm really wanting like 2 loaves of bread and a whole nother loaf to do just for the subs. So I think I'm going to triple this recipe, because it ain't gonna take me much longer to do this versus, you know, to do 3 versus 1. And we'll go through the bread. That is like a guarantee. So I thought I would do a discard one because I've had this yesterday. Can you tell? It looks great, but it is cold. So I was just thinking, you know, you do add a little bit of yeast to this, so it'll help it proof a little faster. I had every intention of getting this going when I first woke up this morning, but y'all, our roof has wind damage, and so we had our insurance adjuster coming out today, and I've been a nervous wreck all morning. I really have barely been functioning. So it is 12:50 and I'm just getting going on it, but I think it takes a total of 3 hours, so that should actually be about perfect. I will link the recipe down below for Farmhouse on Boone. Y'all really need to go check her out, because she is the one that really just got me going on sourdough. She's the one that made me feel like it was a manageable thing for me to tackle. I did start my sourdough based off of her directions, probably about 3 years ago. So she's wonderful. In this bowl, I'm going to add 3 cups of water. I'm going to do warm water because it helps wake the yeast up. That's pretty close. So 3 cups of water along with your honey. She calls for 1 tablespoon per batch, so that would be 3 tablespoons. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm going to double that because I don't like my sourdough to taste overly sourdough. So that would be 6 tablespoons, about 1/3 of a cup. So that's what we're gonna go with. I'm gonna put 1/3 of a cup of honey in this. Now that might seem like a lot to people, but you do need to remember that this is gonna be making like 3 loaves of bread. So if it is a lot, I don't know. I just like my bread sweet. I don't want it tasting, I don't know. I guess I don't want it tasting too sourdough-ish. So what she's having us do is kind of bloom this yeast, which is always a good idea. So we're going to go ahead and put our yeast into this. Not our sourdough, our actual store-bought yeast. It's 3 whopping tablespoons, guys. So we're going 1, 2, 3. In order to activate the yeast that, you know, the store-bought, you just need moisture and sugar, and that wakes it up. So I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. I don't know if you can see that, but we're starting to get foam at the top, which is a good sign. That means that it's not dead yeast. And all right, we're gonna call it 1 and the rest of this. This is that trick I was telling you guys about the other day, because I did not plan ahead. I'll do a little bit of parchment paper, but I'm gonna take this butter, stick it between this parchment paper like so, fold it over, and then I'm just going to get this butter as like flat as I possibly can get it, because it's like a flatter, you know, there's less density to it, so it will become room temp. significantly faster. I used to get a rolling pin out and stuff, but I mean, you know, we're not shooting for perfection. If I see how thin that is gonna come to room temp a whole lot faster. So that's our butter. I'm gonna go ahead and flop the butter in there. There we go. You guys see this? Look, that's beautiful. Just what you want to see. So, I'm making a mess. So I'm gonna scrape the bowl out, and then I'm going to throw in measure up my sourdough discard, and 3 cups is pretty substantial, so it should have that flavor, but hopefully all that added honey that we added to it, it won't have that taste I'm not a big fan of. And I'm just gonna pour it off in there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know how to do it where you can. You may not be able to. See how thick that is? That is what you want. For a long time, I underfed mine. It should be almost like a really sticky dough. See? This was fed just yesterday. And guess what, guys? I'm gonna have to feed it again because I will never be able to do anything with that. We're gonna pour in our sourdough. Now you can see that a lot better because it's in a glass jar. See, that is beautiful. That's what you want your sourdough to look like. We need to add our salt. So she says a ½ tablespoon of salt. I'm just gonna tell you the truth of it. I always double the salt for anything she does. So I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons of salt, which is a lot, but this is making a lot of bread, so don't worry. I have me a 25-pound bag. I'm gonna have to use a different one because that's not in my salt shaker. I have me a 25-pound bag of red mineral salt on the way. Well, I will next week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll call that 6. Okay. Yeah, I don't think this is supposed to be overly complicated. I guess I always feel very intimidated with sourdough bread. It's the stretch and folds, y'all, that gets me so intimidated. As crazy and stupid as that sounds. It is. I get so intimidated by that. The stretch and folds, I'm like, oh, it's just like so much to keep up with. And I have a bread recipe. I literally do stretch and folds, but I do it every 10 minutes for an hour. And I don't feel intimidated by that, like, at all. But this, I don't know. For some reason, it super, super duper intimidates me. Now, for each batch, it calls for 4 cups of flour. So that's 12 cups of flour. But y'all know, probably not going to, like, just super measure that. There's 2. You're never going to believe this about me, but I'm quite a talker, and me and my mom talk. At this time, we talk hours a day. We have cut back a little bit just because we need to get things done more. But part of this audio, I'm talking to her while I'm filming this, so I'm just going to do voiceover for this part. Here, I'm going to put some flour on my countertop. I think I did about the last 2 cups on the countertop so I could knead it in as I went. Now, I will tell you this. I did not need nearly those 2 cups to do this. I had put 10 cups in the Bosch, but I did not need near that much. I don't know. It just wasn't necessary to do all that flour. I don't know. When I had followed her directions entirely on my sourdough, my dough was overly hydrated. So I don't know if maybe she keeps her dough at a higher hydration level and maybe that's why she needs so much flour. But anyhow, if your dough, you keep it around 50-50 as far as flour and water, you don't need that much flour. I probably use 10.5 to 11 cups of flour. And I'm just going to start working this flour in until the dough has the right consistency. You want it to not be sticking to your hands. That's when you know that you have enough, but you don't want it to feel brittle. One thing, I like the way this dough feels, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna set a 7-minute timer to knead this so it comes all together. I always like to knead my bread for about 7 minutes. I have scooted the flour over here to the side, and I'll just kind of incorporate it as I need it, if I need it. Seems like too much flour. I really like the feel of this dough. Pretty impressed, really. I did not follow her recipe 100%. I doubled the salt because she never ever puts enough salt and stuff for me. I've found that double is usually what it needs. And then I doubled the sugar too. I actually just let my stand mixer get it fully incorporated, and I hand knead it I just like doing it by hand better. I can feel what it needs, and like I don't have already kneaded it and then be like, oh no, this needs at least another half cup of flour, you know. That's not a great feeling. All right, this is a different day, a different dough, but I cooked it all the same. I'm gonna bring you along as I knead this and shape it and get it ready to go into the oven. So I've preheated my oven at 375, and this dough has rose for almost 2 hours. I think I could easily do it without the yeast, though. That's my intentions for another time. This is a double, but my loaves turned out so big, I'm kind of thinking about, I think I'm still going to cut it into thirds. When I made the first dough, the one that we made together, I actually used the bread flour from Sam's. You know, it's cheap. It's like $13 for a bag of 25 pounds or something like that. And this, I'm actually using flour that I got from Azure Standard. It's non-GMO, organic, unbleached, and it has about 10% of the brand still in it. Now, what I've learned with this flour is it really changes the texture of my bread in a not so pleasant way. It makes it dense and tough. I'm not the biggest fan of it. If you guys have any, advice on how to work with this kind of flour, I know let it hydrate for about 5 minutes, but does it always change the texture? Am I using too much? Do y'all mix part with, pre-ground flour and then, mill your own? I don't know. I want a grain meal, but I'm kind of scared too with how I felt about this flour. I do like using it in small amounts in my bread, but if you use too much, it really makes the bread dense. So I do this with pretty much all my bread. I roll it flat and then I roll it up kind of like a burrito. And I'm going to tuck the sides. You want to pinch those together. You want to do this very well, because if you don't, what I do is I pinch it, I roll it, I'll probably flip it over and pinch it again. And if you don't do this well, then your bread will come open in the oven, and that is the last thing that you want. I know some people with their bread, they just kind of shape it into a loaf shape and then bake it. This is how I started doing it, so this is how I usually almost always do it. Now, this is something I'm not as talented in, is the beautiful designs on the bread. I would really like to improve my skills, but we're just not there yet. So I'm going to do just a simple slit down the middle. You do have to have this deep cut, because it creates, for the tension, you choose where it splits versus it just doing that on its own in the oven, because it has to rise and expand. And I'm just going to do little decorative designs on the bottom. Now, for one of these loaves, I'm actually going to do something just a little bit different. I kind of got a hankering for a hamburger, and I didn't have any hamburger buns, so I thought, why not? So I'm going to take these. I cut the dough into 4 sections, and then I'm sitting there debating on, is this too big? And I went with, yeah, I think it is too big. And I wanted 8 buns. That's typically what you buy in a pack of buns. And I just thought that would work out nicely. So I'll cut these into 5 or 8 sections. Sorry, I don't know why I said 5. And I'm going to start rolling these into a ball. Now, I watched Jake Bakes or something on YouTube, and I'm going to tell you, he tells you to take your bench knife and actually go in little circles around the dough. And I've learned that that actually does better than this technique that I'm doing here. I would still be forming it the way you see me doing, but I don't know. Something about it creates a better circle to begin with. Now, with hamburger buns, and I'm assuming probably even hot dog buns, after you get them into a circle, you kind of want to smash them down a little bit, you know, because you don't want to make rolls. You're making hamburger buns, which is just slightly different. I mean, if you think about it, a roll is tall and puffy, where a hamburger bun is flatter. So I'm going to get all of these rolled up into a ball, and I did 8, and they turned out a good size. So I'm going to say that was job well done. Now I'm just giving them a good smash, okay? And I'm doing this before they are given time to rise. And I probably did about an hour or two, and you can see the thickness of these. I'm sorry the lighting is not great in this situation, but I did grease my pan, and then I'm going to set the buns on just one of my air pans. I love this pan. Nothing ever gets burnt on the bottom. It's absolutely awesome. If you don't have one, go get one. And I'm going to let these rise. I can't remember, but I want to say I probably let them rise about 2 hours. There's no like hard lines with this. You just want them to be about double. Now, once I got these in the oven, I cooked them at 375, probably about 30 minutes, but I did not set a timer, so I'm not 100% sure. And look how beautiful it all is. I've got the hamburger buns in the oven. They've been cooking at 375. I have no idea for how long because I did not set a timer. But I can smell the bread, which is a good indication we're getting real close. So I am going to temp our hamburger buns. They should be temping somewhere around 200 degrees if they're fully cooked through. I always try to do this just to ensure that I don't end up with some, funky, undercooked, doughy bread. Nobody likes that. Or, well, actually, my stepdaughter loves it. I don't like it. So, I'm thinking, very honestly, these are probably done. See how brown these are? I'm pretty sure these are done. We're at 185, and I mean, it's just, yeah, I actually may have overdone these a bit, but yeah, we've just hit 200 now. We've hit 200. These are done. We're maybe a little on the overcooked side. I'm going to put these on the tops of them. Maybe they will. All right, let's put 2 loaf pans in the oven, and we'll be done with this batch. And then I'll have filmed the whole thing. This is what these are looking like before they go into the oven. Nice and big, definitely doubled in size. So we'll see what they look like when they come out. This old girl right here, she gets totally distracted. So I definitely should set a timer. I should never wing it, but I think these turned out beautifully either way. Now, I will tell you guys, I'm having a little bit of a learning curve with this unbleached, organic, unbleached, non-GMO flour. It's wonderful, but the texture of the bread is not, I don't know about the texture of the bread once it's cooked. The texture of the dough is a little bit different, so it's taking me a little time to get used to the feel of everything. But like all things, I will figure it out. I'm just going to keep on practicing and keep on working at it, just like anything else. But I'm super excited about this. I'm actually sitting here editing a video right now. Actually, it's a short. Editing my Azure Standard haul short to send to you guys, and I haven't put nothing out in over probably 2 or 3 weeks. But y'all are hanging strong, and I appreciate that. All right, let's get this bread out of the oven. House smells so good. Ooh, that's getting hot. Hot. Look, it looks so pretty. I hadn't tempted it, but I'm pretty positive that it is done. How pretty does that look, y'all? gonna baste a little bit of butter on top, and maybe a little bit of a sprinkle of salt.
You're not going out there.
I cooked these for 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be done, but actually probably should go more. Kind of hate that I did it like that. All right, we're gonna let that check the temp. I'm cutting my hamburger buns in half. We are having homemade hamburgers. These ain't done. Honestly, cannot believe that. A nicer bread knife probably would be great, but anyways, look at that. It looks so pretty. That's beautiful to see inside. So we're gonna throw this bread back in the oven. Now it is getting a little brown, so I'm probably going to toss some aluminum foil over the top. So we're just gonna create kind of like a little tent, you could say. And that just kind of covers the bread so they don't get so brown. More brown than, you know, you would desire them to be. Make them just a bit longer. I'm gonna set an alarm. I mean, it was way off on the temp, so I'm gonna say 10 more minutes. We're gonna try this again. They look pretty, but they looked pretty last time, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Let's temp it. Let's see where we're at. I am going in the same hole that I went into last time, so maybe I don't have to. You really don't want holes in your bread because then it lets all the steam out, so hopefully it's kind of sealed up. Not going to be a problem. Nothing that will fancy up a meal like fresh homemade bread. I mean, you know, if you're doing garlic bread for spaghetti or something, it just, I don't know, it just makes it so much more special. So if you're looking to take really humble meals and make them more special, make some homemade bread for your family. We're at 189. We're going to quit tipping and we're going to let it be. And this is the bigger of the two. So if this one's temped, the other one should be. And this time, this came out pretty clean. I am going to kind of wash it off, but it came pretty clean. Because these were on the low end of temping, I am going to just leave them in the pan to finish, to cool off. That way that they'll cook, you know, they should be finished by the time I actually pull them out. Here's the final results. Tell me that doesn't look absolutely beautiful. Here are the homemade hamburgers we made. I hope you enjoyed today's video.